It was never going to happen for me with any of the girls in my high school, and I knew that, and I did not attempt. But then, luckily, I mean, I was on Freaks and Geeks, immediately after that.
Immediately after high school?
Immediately after. Like, done with high school in June, starting Freaks and Geeks July.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And so after that, I was like, it's my understanding that people on television have an easier go at this.
And they like me. I'm good. I'm getting cast. What was that audition process? I'm sure you've talked about this. Was it something you auditioned for repeatedly?
Not repeatedly. Like I've repeatedly auditioned for things since then. No, I went in and read just for Allison Jones, the great casting director, Emmy Award winning for her work on Freaks and Geeks, by the way.
Yeah.
Casting director Allison Jones. So first I went and I read for her, and I got the audition like any other. I think it was the very first actual pilot audition I'd ever been set up with.
Right.
And that was only because Judd Apatow and Paul Feig were specifically looking for unpolished, known TV film actors. Like they didn't want, if you had a crazy resume, they were not interested.
Wow.
They wanted young people that looked like real young people. Yeah. So that's impossibly how I got the call to go audition for this. And originally I read for the role that John Daly played, Sam Weir.
Right.
And so it says in the breakdown, it's like, he's nerdy, he's undersized, he likes doing impressions with his friends. They talk about comedy all the time. I'm like, well, that's me. So I hope this goes well. And God bless her, my mother was like, oh, it says he does impressions. You should do your impressions. And at the time, I was doing stand-up, and I used to do a truly terrible impression of William Shatner.
Just terrible.
Terrible. Like, it was not a good impression.
It
wasn't even that good. It wasn't even that good. It was mostly, it was that. It was just that.
That's good, though. That looks
good. So I was like, yeah, all right, fine. So when I go into the audition, they always ask me, do you have any questions? And I say, yeah, it says he does impressions. I actually do a William Shatner impression. Could I do that as part of the audition? And they're like, yeah, we'll do it at the end. Okay, great. So then I read the role of Sam Weir, not particularly well. And then literally I turn to casting. They're like, okay, go ahead. And then I launch into my crappy Shatner impression, which was something directly from my act. I did him on Rescue 911. Remember he used to host Rescue 911?
Yeah.
Tonight on Rescue 911. That's right. Anyway, so
did you think this didn't go well?
I was like, yeah, it went fine. But at that point I'd had hundreds of auditions.
And you weren't getting tons?
No, you go in, you do it, you move on with your life.
Right.
And I felt pretty good about it. And then like a day later they called. And they're like, hey, they want to read you for producers. And I said, oh, great. But
as a different character.
Well, here's what happened.
Okay.
So the real story is Judd Apatow was looking at the tapes, and he saw that. And my read of the scene was not very good. But he got such a kick out of my bad Shatner that he said, oh, you know what? Put that kid on the callback list. If nothing else, Paul Feig is coming in to do the first round of callbacks. That'll give him a good laugh. Like, just have this kid do a Shatner.
You found out through Judd.
Yes, Judd and Paul. They both told me that story. Yeah. They're like, no, you only wound up on that list because I wanted to make Paul laugh. That's it. And so Paul was the one who I went to do my callback for. And when I went in and I read for Sam Weir again, and then I did my Shatner, and then Paul was like, that's great. That's great. You know what? Can I give you a different character to read? I was like, yeah. So then he gives me Neil Schreiber, and I take that outside and I work on it in the waiting room for 20 minutes. And they were like, whenever you're ready, just let us know. And so I looked at it. I was like, yeah, I feel like I could do this too. And then like 3 kids later, I go back in and I do that for Paul, and he was really into it. And he was like, no, let's try it this way. Or try it this way. Try it this way. And so.
And you were giving him what he wanted.
I hope so. I think so.
You did, obviously.
And he was like, okay, great. Thanks so much. And I leave. And then an hour later, they call again. They were like, okay, they want to see you again tomorrow. I was like, okay, great. And so now I go in, and so now I'm reading for Paul and Judd Apatow and Jake Kasdan, the director of the pilot. And I walk in, and Judd literally says, all right, Levine, warm us up with some Shatner. And so I start with the audition this time, or the impression, and then we start doing Neil Schreiber, and same thing. We're working on it. We're doing this. They give me an extra scene, and we're having goofy fun with it.
Were you nervous? Or just fun nervous?
I was fun nervous. I mean, I think the fact that I'd done stand-up at that point for so many years on stage in New York, like I didn't get the typical stage fright stuff. Like, and then also, again, unnecessary confidence. There's no reason I should have been that confident. It was borderline arrogance.
Right.
And I was like, I could do this. I know what they want. Fucking idiot.
Who called you? Did your manager call you when you got it?
So, well, first they called me, and that later that night, hey, they want to network test you. You
gotta fly another one.
You got to fly to LA.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So the good thing here though was, and this is the only time in my career it's ever happened. Boy, they really screwed me. This being my first job. Judd told DreamWorks, who was the studio, I'm not studio testing any of these kids. I'm not going to make them do it twice. I'm telling you who I want. You approve them. I'm taking them to network. And DreamWorks said, okay.
So you skipped it.
So we did not have to do the studio test, just the network test.
Right.
And so it was at the old NBC studios in Burbank.
Yeah.
And we do a work session. And at the work session.
This is a lot for a TV show. A lot to go through.
You know what this is.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that, but I've never. I mean, I guess I have. I remember the Community. It was just between me and Joel McHale. And we kept going in and out and in. And yeah, I remember going, he's going to get it. He's the part. Yeah. I'm not mature enough. He's going to get, and he got it. I remember we've talked about that before when he was on the podcast.
There you go.